Alright, let's get the show back on track. The last episode was pretty bad, but that's over. It's gone, and we're never gonna have to talk about that episode again. There can't be anything that bad in episode 7, right?
I'm okay. Bye, take care.
This is Cave of Vinca. In all seriousness, I actually had some hope for this episode when I first started watching it. Episode 7 of High Guardian Spice is the most different episode of the entire lot. Most of the episodes technically fall into the category of slice-of-life school stuff, and are very light on the fantasy and the adventure. Cave of Vinca, however, is a full-on adventure plot. The characters are given a goal that is fraught with danger that they must overcome using their wits and their strength. And to be as fair as I can, the setup isn't half bad. Our party has to travel deep into the depths of a dungeon in order to find magical healing water, which pits them against several monsters and other trials. It's one of the episodes that is more willing to get into the action. It's even to the point where they're willing to show some blood. Nowhere near enough to justify an MA rating, but it's on the right track, and credit where it's due. This episode even has the nice touch of adding a time limit. During the first combat with the parasects, Rosemary gets hit by the Queen, and it adds an element of the ticking clock. If they don't get to the healing water fast enough, Rosemary is actually in serious danger. The episode actually understands tension. Every fountain that the girls come to is completely drained. It builds their desperation as they get deeper and deeper into the caves of Vinca. It also has an element of mystery, as you're forced to wonder why the healing waters had run so dry. This plot should have been the easiest win ever. On paper, it sounds like it would have been a really good episode. Like the show is finally getting on track after a dour 5 episodes and an abysmal 6th. On paper, anyway. You see, in practice, this is an episode of High Guardian Spice. That might sound harsh, but there really is no better way to describe the problem. I want to stress, more so than any other episode of the show, Cave of Vinca could have worked. It could have been good. However, in the end, it doesn't work, and a lot of that comes down to the problems that are endemic to High Guardian Spice as a whole. Beauty is only skin deep, so let's start with that animation. Back in my introduction video, I said that I wouldn't be commenting on animation errors, and I'm still not doing that. The actual animation quality in this episode is terrible. It's on par with episode 1. The start of the episode has all our first-year Guardians proudly parading towards the Cave of Vinca. And while they're doing that, literally the only thing I notice is all of the townspeople in the background. This crowd looks awful. Everyone obviously doesn't have a face. They're in a completely different animation style entirely from the Guardians. They're overly geometric, and there are clones just everywhere. Their motion is also so mechanical that you'd think they were like an advertisement billboard or something. The faces here are absolutely horrifying. These characters are missing their eyes. The characters that don't talk look stoned out of their minds. Either that or they're still as statues. This guy looks... and the guy next to him looks like he just let out a fart. I'm bringing this up for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's prominent. It's the first minute of the episode, and I'm willing to bet that even the most casual viewer would notice something here. This is front and center. This isn't something you just have to scan the background for. For example, when all of the teachers are on the bridge, only the psychotic potions teacher is moving. Everyone else is perfectly still, like this is some kind of fucking cult. Could anyone not notice any of this shit? Like, look at this. Not only does it break every single rule of animation, it is uncanny as all hell. You can't not notice it. The other reason I'm bringing this up is that animation quality is important for action. The fight with the parasects reminds me a lot of fights in 80s cartoons, and not just because Sage is using censor-approved laser beams. The action sequence relies on a lot of quick cuts that make it hard for blows to actually sink in. The most prominent is when the parasect Queen slashes Rosemary's side. It happens so quickly that I actually had to rewind the episode several times to catch it, which makes what happens afterwards more than a little bit confusing. And there's also the blood itself. I'm gonna say it looks really fake. In this episode, and in every episode of High Guardian Spice. It looks like a YouTuber took a random kid's cartoon and plastered red all over it to make it look edgy. To the episode's credit, the animation does steadily get better, but the problem is that most of the action happens in the first half of the episode. The second half has the characters doing a lot of sitting around, which we will get to. The only actual fight that happens in the second half of the episode is with these diamond golems, which they can't lay a scratch on. It quickly becomes apparent that whatever they do isn't going to work on them because...
our weapons can't break diamonds! It's the hardest element.
Diamonds are not an element. I do have to admit though, this is one of the more engaging fights in the series. The characters are in actual danger, the music fits nicely, and the solution actually makes logical sense. Also, it doesn't have any of those fake blood splatters, which, believe it or not, actually does help the immersion. Despite what it may seem, I'm not trying to be actively mean here. High Guardian Spice can do a couple of things right. Once in a while, it actually happens. And I think it has an actually good action sequence here. And like I said, the ticking clock was also a great idea. The fact that one of our main characters could legitimately die. It's a tried and true way to get tension, drama, and conflict. So, how do they screw it up?
That's right! No map. Can someone of you tell me where the most magical fountain is?
Once again, it comes down to the acting. Rosemary's voice actress constantly tries to play wooziness, delirium. Like she's sick, not like she has a fucking gash in her side. It doesn't fit, and it doesn't convey what's actually going on here. How do I want to put this?
Sage, I'm fine. I asked you to drop the trapper on me.
That sounds like what you do when you pretend to die badly. Like, you know, oh no, you have hit me in the sternum. Now I shall fall over and die. Bleh. I get the delirium is a part of blood loss, but like at no point does Rosemary actually act in pain. She's also moving around quite a lot for someone who is dying of blood loss. I'm definitely not blaming the voice actor in this case, because this is clearly an issue with direction. Hey, Rose, you're about to fucking die. Can you act like it? It's not just Rosemary who has bad direction either. Time apparently got the order to do her best Eeyore impression.
Looks like we're all going to die here after all.
Although I have to admit, even with the best direction in the world, I don't think that you can make this writing work.
You're our morale.
Except louder and so much more gassy.
Sage, that's way too much information. Also, what the fuck does that even mean? You're our morale except louder. Speaking of acting, let's talk about that dragon moment. Now, I've been playing it a bunch out of context, but context doesn't make it any different or any more sensical. The girls get a dragon egg, they throw it into the healing water, and it quickly becomes an adult and takes them out of the dungeon. And then the dragon disintegrates, because...
And the waters can heal and propel life forward.
That is the opposite of healing. Like, literally speaking, that is the opposite of healing. Anyway, the dragon frees them from the dungeon, and then it dies. And then it suddenly becomes alive again and explodes into stars. Rosemary asks if that's how stars are made, and then Sage is all like,
Huh? Oh, yeah, for sure.
is she, being serious? Sarcastic? I genuinely have no idea. But, to tell you the truth, I wouldn't trade this moment for the world. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong, it's stupid as all hell, but that's why it's so beautiful. The show does have a few moments like this, and I can't get enough of these. And I gotta be honest, at times, it makes the series almost worth it. Almost. This episode also gives a highlight to Zinnia. Zinnia has been mostly a background character. Her only notable appearance before this was nearly dying to the plant in episode 5. I think that she was supposed to be a gimmick character like Parnell or Slime Boy, where her shtick was nearly dying all the time. You know, kinda like Eugene from Hey Arnold. I say I think because it only happened once, but I kinda would like to see more of that. I think it's a shtick that works. And she's also my favorite character in the whole show, because she, literally nopes out of it.
None of us should be going in there. Why would any of you choose to walk into this nightmare?
Fun fact, that is exactly what my friend said to me when I told them that I was going to review High Guardian Spice.
No, I'm too young and way too attractive for admission.
Honestly, that's another character idea that I really like. Could you imagine a character in like Harry Potter or Percy Jackson going, wait a minute, we're teenagers, we could actually fucking die here. One of the things that makes me so obsessed with the series is that, believe it or not, it is full of potential. I've covered a lot of bad shows in my day. Problem Solvers, Sanjay and Craig, Adult Party Cartoon, and with a lot of them, it was clear that they couldn't have worked from their basic inception. No matter what you did to them, they were probably always destined to fail. With High Guardian Spice, under the surface, there's actually a lot of individual pieces that have something going for them. It's just that the show chooses not to use them so often. So, that god-awful theme song likes to go on about the show's lore. You hear it at the start of every episode. Episode 7 is one of the only times that we actually get a taste of that lore.
That is Vinca. She liked to crash parties and turn her suitors into wine. And drink them.
Now tell me that you don't want to hear more about Vinca. That sounds interesting. I mean, is she a goddess? Is she a mage? Is she real, mythical? There's gotta be some stories buried there somewhere. I mean this with absolutely no sarcasm. It is unfortunate that we don't get to hear more about Vinca. And yeah, that's it. That's the grand total of lore in the entire show. And we don't even learn why the cave is named after Vinca. And I get it. Not everyone is into the lore, even in a fantasy show like this. Not going deep into the lore isn't the biggest problem in the world. No, the biggest problem in the world would be that they have the exact same attitude towards actual plot points. So, the premise of this episode is that each of the Guardians needs to get a vial of water. And if they don't get that vial of water, they get expelled immediately. Sure, whatever, let's go with that. However, the conflict of the episode is that all of the wells are dry, and the girls have to venture to bedrock to get anything. So, did every other student get expelled? Or did the teachers figure out that something was fishy and just cancel the assignment? I can't tell you, because this crucial piece of information is never established. Unless you're ending on a cliffhanger, which this episode doesn't do, falling action is not optional. This is a serious plot hole now, and it is never addressed. No one ever explains what happens to the other students or to the waters. The Cave of Vinca never gets mentioned again, ever. The vial of water comes back in a later episode, but that just leads to more questions. If the point of the assignment was to get the water, don't you think they'd have to turn it into the teacher? Are the students allowed to keep what they find? This is a genuine question.
Questions?
Yeah, I actually have a few more.
Below level 3, the risk level exceeds your training. You are ready. I've trained you more than this mission requires.
So, do the students only have enough training to get to level 3? Or did you train them enough to get beyond level 3? But the biggest problem of the episode, as always, comes down to the fact that our main characters are morons.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can the spring, the healing waters, what do they heal? Could they heal a tree?
Gee, time, I have no idea. Can the magical healing waters made of magic, which are stated to be able to heal anything, can they heal a tree? Let's think really hard about this. I just don't know. Give the show one thing. It's subverting the stereotype that elves are supposedly intelligent. But believe it or not, it's actually Parsley who takes the biggest level of dumbass in the entire episode. Perhaps the entire show. Yeah, I know, I'm surprised too.
Okay, according to this map, we take 1,200 paces north and then turn right at the drop-off.
No, I've got a faster way.
You got a faster way, huh? You know, a shortcut. Despite the fact that you've never been in this cave before. Is this supposed to be like some sort of special kind of dwarf sense or some shit like that? That'd be cool, but you know, you gotta establish things like that. Also, despite apparently needing to go north, everyone is going in random fucking directions. Compass lessons worked out great, guys. Eventually, after they fight with the diamond golems, the girls get stuck at the very bottom of the cave around a healing pond, and they've all, I guess, accepted the fact that they're going to die. Do I have to state the problem here? Is this another thing that I have to do? Okay, I guess I do. You fucking morons are sitting around a magical healing pond! You're going to live long enough to experience the heat death of the universe, let alone long enough to dig yourselves out. No, instead of reaching this incredibly obvious conclusion, they end up playing Truth or Dare.
I don't hate anyone.
Ever.
Rose? Gospel?
What the fuck even is this moment? This game is totally engaging, I swear.
Afternoon and evening are different things.
You're not one to nitpick, sweetie. I'm surprised that you don't think that the moon and the sun are the same thing at this point.
I've never kissed anyone! That's how you get tuberculosis.
Yeah, I think that's where we can end this one.
Give Rosemary a compliment.
You're loyal to your friends.
Oh, golly gee whiz. You're gonna love to see what happens in the next episode.